When I unlocked the door, the silence inside was louder than any sound I'd ever heard. If you're watching this video, tell me where are you from, or what time is it for you? It had been 22 years since I last stepped into Margaret's house, my best friend since childhood, my almost sister, my mirror in laughter and in stubbornness. She left me this place in her will, a gesture that felt too heavy for the trembling hands of an old woman like me. I stood in the entryway for a long time, clutching the brass key she'd sent in the mail 2 weeks before she passed. The air smelled of cedar and thyme. Like every corner had kept its breath waiting for her to return. The living room was just as I remembered. Lace curtains, floral sofa, piano against the wall. The same framed photo of the two of us at 17, laughing with wind-tangled hair, stood proudly on the mantel. But a thin layer of dust lay over everything, like memory's version of snow. I whispered, "You still kept it all, didn't you, Maggie?" The sunlight fell across her favorite armchair, the one by the window where she used to sit with her tea and say things like, "If you don't stir sugar, life stays bitter." I half expected her to call out from the kitchen, "Tea's ready, Ruth!" But all that answered was the creak of old floorboards and the sound of my own heartbeat, reminding me I was still here, and she wasn't. Margaret and I hadn't spoken in over 20 years. No fights that mattered, just one misunderstanding too big for either of us to step over. She stopped writing, and I stopped calling. Pride aged faster than we did. But even when we weren't speaking, I sent her birthday cards. Unsigned, of course. I never knew if she kept them. When her lawyer called and said, "Mrs. Green, Miss Margaret Turner left her property to you," I dropped the phone. Her property. To me. There were family members, nieces, distant cousins. Yet, she chose me. That's when I knew there was something unfinished waiting here. The first night I spent in the house, I couldn't sleep. I made a cup of tea and wandered from room to room. Every object had a memory tied to it. The cracked china dish we bought at the county fair. The painting we tried to hang straight for hours, laughing until our stomachs hurt. The mirror by the staircase. I could still see us as teenagers in it, practicing speeches about all the things we'd do when we grew up. But the attic door caught my eye. It was half open, as if inviting me, or daring me. I climbed, up slowly, one creak at a time. Dust motes floated in the beam of my flashlight. Trunks, boxes, old suitcases. And then, tucked in the corner, an envelope sat on top of a stack of books. It had my name written in her careful cursive. Ruth. My breath caught. I didn't open it right away. My hands shook too much. Instead, I sat on the wooden floor, staring at it for a long time, whispering, "Why now, Maggie?" Maybe she couldn't say it in life. Maybe she was waiting for this silence. This moment where the only thing louder than her absence was the truth she'd left behind. I held the envelope close to my chest, feeling the weight of something more than paper. The weight of 20 years of unsaid words, and as the wind rattled the attic window, I could almost hear her voice again, gentle and teasing. "You always liked finding things, Ruth. Well, I left you something to find." The morning sunlight slipped through the curtains like a shy guest. I hadn't slept much. I kept hearing that envelope calling me from the attic. If you are watching this video, tell me where are you from, or what time is it for you? Umber made myself a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table, the letter still sealed. My fingers traced my name on it again and again, as if touching her handwriting could bring her back. "Maggie," I whispered. "What did you want to tell me after all these years?" Finally, I opened it. The paper was yellowed, folded carefully, The ink slightly faded, but her words were alive. My dearest Ruth, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I wish I'd found the courage to write sooner. But life has a cruel way of convincing us we have more time. I didn't leave you this house for pity. I left it because it was always half yours. You helped me build this life, even when I pretended I didn't need you. There's something I must confess, hidden where we used to keep secrets as girls. Please go to the attic, the north corner under the loose floorboard. You'll find what I couldn't say aloud. Always, Maggie. I folded the letter slowly. My heart was racing. That north corner. I knew exactly what she meant. When we were 10, we'd sneak chocolates under a loose plank there, thinking it was our secret treasure box. Now, decades later, she had hidden something again. I climbed up the attic stairs, each step creaking like a memory waking up. The air smelled of dust, cedar, and faint lavender, the scent she always wore. The floorboard she mentioned was still loose. My hands trembled as I pried it up. Inside the hollow space, wrapped in a cloth, was an old leather-bound journal tied with a faded blue ribbon. The ribbon broke easily. On the first page, in her handwriting, was a single sentence. This is everything I couldn't say to you, Ruth, and everything I wish you knew before goodbye. I held my breath and began to read. The first few pages were full of memories, childhood adventures, late-night talks, laughter so vivid it made me smile through tears. But as the pages turned, her words began to tremble. I didn't stop writing to you out of anger. I stopped because I was sick, and I didn't want you to see me fade. I thought I was sparing you the pain. My throat tightened. The doctor said it was early, but I knew it wasn't. I didn't want to become someone you pitied. I wanted you to remember me strong, not fragile. Tears blurred the ink. When you stopped calling, I thought you were angry. It broke me, Ruth. I waited by the phone every night, hoping your voice would forgive me for disappearing. I closed the book for a moment, pressing it to my chest. Oh, Maggie, I whispered. We were both too proud to ask why. I turned another page. There were photos taped inside, of us as girls, as mothers, as gray-haired women laughing in our gardens. Each photo had a note. This day was perfect. You made me brave. You never knew how much I loved you for staying kind. The very end, tucked between the last 2 pages, was another folded sheet. I opened it gently. If you find this, please forgive me for leaving quietly. I wanted you to remember our good years, not my final ones. I was never angry with you. I was scared. Promise me one thing, Ruth. Fill this house with laughter again. Don't let my silence be the last sound these walls remember. I sat there for a long time, letting her words wash over me like sunlight through an open window. After a while, I whispered, I forgive you, old friend, and I hope you forgive me too. Then something strange happened. As I placed the journal back down, a beam of light caught a framed photograph leaning against the attic wall. It was of the 2 of us at 17, and for the briefest second, I could swear she was smiling differently than before, like the photo had been waiting for this moment to exhale. When I went downstairs, the house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like she was there, not haunting it, but blessing it. And in that quiet morning air, I finally said aloud what I should have said decades ago. I missed you every single day, Maggie. That night, I sat by the fireplace with Maggie's journal on my lap. The house was quiet, but not empty anymore. It felt like she was in every shadow, every sigh of the floorboards. If you're watching this video, Tell me where are you from, or what time is it for you? I traced my fingers over the leather cover. It was cracked and worn, soft at the corners where her thumbs must have rested. She always held things gently, even pain. I turned the page and began to read where I'd left off. Ruth, if love had a shape, ours would have been a circle, no beginning, no end. I've loved you like a sister, envied you like a rival, and missed you like a heartbeat that stopped too soon. The words made me tremble. Maggie was never poetic in life. She was blunt, funny, and honest to a fault. But here her heart had learned how to whisper. She wrote about our youth, sneaking into the orchard to steal apples, laughing until our sides hurt, planning our futures like we had forever. She remembered things I'd long forgotten. The day I cried over my first heartbreak, the time she patched up my knee after I fell off my bike, how she held me when my mother died. But then the tone shifted. I didn't tell you the truth about why I stopped writing. It wasn't just my illness. It was shame. I found out something you deserved to know. Something about your husband. My breath caught. You remember that summer he helped me. Paint the back porch? He told me things he shouldn't have. Not about love, but about loneliness. I didn't cross that line, Ruth, but I stood too close to it. When you came by that day and saw us laughing, you looked away too quickly. I saw the doubt in your eyes, and I couldn't forgive myself for putting it there. The words blurred. As my tears fell, I remembered that day vividly, walking up her driveway, seeing them laughing, her hand brushing his sleeve as she handed him a paintbrush. It had stung, though I never said a word. That night, David and I argued for hours. I didn't accuse her, but the silence afterward did the damage for me. And the next week, Maggie stopped calling. I turned another page. When he passed away, I wanted to reach out to you. I even wrote a letter, but I burned it. I thought you'd never want to hear from me again. I didn't betray you, Ruth, but I let guilt build a wall that friendship couldn't climb. I pressed the page to my heart. Oh, Maggie! For 20 years, we'd both carried ghosts made of misunderstanding. Near the end of the journal, she'd pasted an envelope labeled, "For my friend, when she's ready." I opened it slowly. Inside was a photograph, the last one we ever took together in her garden, years before the silence. We were both laughing, arms around each other, sun on our faces. On the back, she'd written, "No secret is stronger than love." Beneath the photo was one final note. "If you ever find this, I hope you'll come back to the garden. I buried something there. A seed we planted together but never saw bloom." The next morning I walked outside into the cool dawn. The garden was overgrown but still full of color. Stubborn roses, tired lavender, wild daisies. I knelt near the old stone bench where she said we once planted a seed. The soil was soft, as if it had been turned not long ago. I dug gently with my hands, expecting nothing more than roots or stones, but instead I found a small tin box. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a single dried white rose. "Ruth, this rose grew from the same soil that held our laughter. When you see it again, know that I never stopped loving you. This is not a goodbye. It's a homecoming." I pressed the rose to my lips and whispered, "You silly woman. You could have just called." But even as I said it, I felt her laughter echo around me. Soft, warm, forgiving. That afternoon I placed the journal on her piano, opened to the first page, and said aloud, "I found it, Maggie. I finally found what you were trying to say. And for the first time in decades, I didn't feel like I'd lost my best friend. I felt like I'd finally come home to her." The next morning I woke before sunrise. The house was quiet, except for the soft creak of the wooden stairs and the faint hum of wind pushing against the windows. If you are watching this video, tell me where are you from, or what time is it for you? I made myself tea the same way Maggie used to, with 2 spoons of sugar, no stirring. She always said, "Let sweetness find its own way." That phrase stayed in my head as I walked out to her garden. The grass was damp with dew, the earth cool beneath my slippers. I could see the little patch where I'd found the tin box the day before. I brought a small bag of seeds with me. Marigolds, daisies, lavender, her favorites. And there, under the soft pink light of dawn, I began to plant. Each handful of soil felt like turning the pages of our friendship again. The laughter, the silence, the mistakes, the forgiveness, all buried here, all growing again. I could almost hear her voice teasing me from somewhere above. "Don't plant them too close, Ruth. You always crowd the roots." And I smiled, through tears. "I know, Maggie. I just want them to stay together this time." The breeze picked up, brushing my face like a soft hand. It carried the faint scent of lavender. Her scent. By mid-morning, the garden was alive again, a new beginning born out of something that had once felt like an ending. Later that day, I took the journal and her letter and placed them on the small table by the window, right next to the piano where we used to sing old songs from our youth. Then I opened the windows wide. For years, this house had held its breath. Now, it finally exhaled. The lace curtains danced in the sunlight, and somewhere in that gentle movement, I felt her here. Not haunting, not hurting. Just home. That evening, my daughter Claire came to visit. She found me sitting on the porch swing with a cup of tea, the scent of fresh flowers filling the air. "Mom," she said softly, "you look different today." I smiled. I found peace, sweetheart. It was hiding under a floorboard. She laughed through confusion. "You and your metaphors." "No," I said. "This time, I mean it." I told her everything. The letter, the journal, the secret Maggie carried all those years. I didn't cry this time. I just spoke slowly, with gratitude instead of grief. Claire listened quietly, her eyes shining. "She sounds like she loved you a lot." "She did," I said, "and I loved her too, even when I thought I didn't." She squeezed my hand. "You should do something for her, something lasting." I looked out toward the garden and smiled. "I already have." The next morning, I made a small wooden sign and placed it by the garden gate. It read, "The Garden of Goodbye, where love learns to stay." I sat on the bench and watched the sunlight stretch across the flowers, and I whispered, "Maggie, you did it. You found a way to make me forgive, to make me remember, and to make me live again." A butterfly landed on the handle of the watering can, pale white, delicate still. For a second, I couldn't move. I just smiled and said softly, "I know, that's you." Weeks turned into months. The garden flourished. Neighbors stopped by, drawn by the colors and the peace that lingered in the air. Sometimes I'd tell them the story. Not the sad parts, just the sweet ones. The kind that remind people what friendship can really mean. And every spring since, the marigolds bloom first. Bright, bold, unapologetically alive. Just like her. On my last visit before moving into the small cottage near my daughter's home, I stood by the gate, touching the sign. The house behind me was empty again. But this time, it didn't feel lonely. It felt complete. I whispered one last time, "Goodbye, my Maggie. I'll see you where the gardens never die." Then I turned the key in the lock, left it hanging on the nail beside the door, and walked away, smiling through the sunlight, feeling lighter than I had in decades, because some friendships never end. They just keep blooming, one memory at a time.